I've delayed releasing this video and I apologize for not making it and for not releasing it much earlier. But I've gotten a chance now to release it and I hope you will learn from it and I hope it will allow you to think and apply your mind. I've said before that I do not think André, the ex-CEO of Eskom, is a hero. And I hope that in this video, you'll also get to understand a little bit of why. It's Penuel the black pen. It's Penuel ipene elimnyama, usiba olumnyama. It's Penuel the sword pen. I wrote this sometime this year and I edited it recently. Before André the Ruyter dropped bombs in the ETV interview with Annika Lawson, which dropped on 23 February 2023, and before releasing his book, Truth to Power, on the 14th of May 2023, Gayton Mckenzie explained in mid-December 2022 how Eskom has been infiltrated by mafias and how he has solutions. But the ANC and the mainstream media largely ignored his posts. These are Gayton's posts from last year. South Africa is run by criminals. Black, white, Indian, Chinese, African, Asian, and other criminals. Until good people are ready to get armed, fight back forcefully, vote better, and buy from businesses run by good people, nothing will change. Penuel the Black Pen. Gayton's posts. Part 1. Eskom can be fixed immediately. Eskom has a political and criminal problem. That is why we are in darkness. Let me explain. Criminal problem. Eskom has always been a cash cow for the coal mafia, the fuel mafia, the truck mafia, the maintenance mafia. Let me further break down these mafias for you. The coal mafia. They sell substandard coal to Eskom. They also paint stones black and pass it on as coal. This is causing breakages at power stations. They are also heavily involved at the weigh bridges where coal gets weighed and inspected. They have people who lie about the real weight in order to be paid more for their coal or the stones. These mafia also buy coal from legitimate miners and sell it on as their coal at sometimes 3 times the price. Yes, some of them do have legitimate contracts with Eskom. The fuel mafia. These ones steal fuel from state pipes like Transnet. They onsell this fuel to truck drivers, forcibly so sometimes. Some of this fuel find gets sold to Eskom and restolen from Eskom and resold to truck drivers and Eskom. It's like a circle. These mafias are very sophisticated and own trucks and fuel storage depots. This mafia would do everything in its power to make sure coals are wet, plants break down, anything for Eskom to buy diesel. The more Eskom buys diesel, the more they can steal the diesel. Eskom is burning 100 times more diesel than ever before. The truck mafia. These ones break all rail capabilities in order for Eskom to be totally reliant on trucks. They extort money from the legitimate truck drivers. They ask for protection money against theft. They are like a man insurance company. Your trucks will always be targeted, always, if you don't pay. They even tell truck owners that they are the reason why Eskom doesn't use trains. Their biggest cash cow is with the drivers without owners' knowledge. They go with coal to Eskom and get redirected to another yard with the coal, but in the books of Eskom, that coal gets booked in as delivered. They also get in the business of truck spares, batteries and tires. It's basically a racket where they steal from one truck and sell to other truckers. The maintenance mafia. These guys break each and every infrastructure or power station. They force the legitimate contract holders of Eskom to buy parts from them. They are in cahoots with some tender boys. They burn, and the tender boys know that they will get the work to go and fix. It's like a simple game. They destroy all infrastructure, and whoever gets the work knows that they should pay, or they don't allow them to work, or they destroy the work of the company that refuses to pay. We have never seen so many substations burning. They are behind it. What benefit does anyone get from burning a substation? The benefit is for the guys getting the tenders and the maintenance mafia. I'm giving you the problems. I will tomorrow talk about the political problems, and Saturday I will talk about the solutions and what I would do if I have to run Eskom. All mafias mentioned above are highly organized, brutal, and already made billions out of Eskom while we sit in darkness. Someone needs to lead the fight. I'm willing. The majority of their key members work for Eskom. Salute. Eskom Part 2. The political problem. Eskom is a political buffet being dined at by local politics, provincial politics, national political and international politics and its handlers. Eskom's senior staff belongs to either of the above factions or formations politically. The majority of the senior managers get their protection from the different politicians in the aforementioned levels of power. Add the unions to those that hold sway over who gets to eat from this pie. The interest of all above mentioned is to get maximum profit, maximum representation, and maximum power over the decisions made at Eskom. I must add that this didn't start with the current government. It long started from the days of Eskom, Elektrisiteit Voorsieningskommissie. All above mentioned interests are being controlled by big money and big interest. These are the people that decide who should join the boards and who should become CEO. None of us can truly point to anything André did that warranted him becoming CEO. Most of our leaders are so happy to see his back. This leads to the question as to why and who appointed him. That answer can easily be found in which companies were appointed or being given more work during his term. The billions in Eskom make it impossible to ignore by huge global interest. Eskom also acts as a bank to struggling and favored coal mines or suppliers. Terms get amended depending on the political power or clout the company holds. Some tenders have been running for 50 years without being advertised simply because of political connectivity. The pricing structure for the same coal together with terms differ from company to company once again depending on the level of political connectivity. We have been repeatedly told about the Guptas who supply coal to Eskom. Yes, they do. They supplied 5% of the coal. Let's even make it 20%. The question should be, who supplies the rest of the 80% of coal? Most of those companies hold the answers to the interest who has been bleeding Eskom dry, including the Guptas. Our darkness in South Africa is wholly engineered by people that see Eskom as a cash cow and not one that should provide electricity to a nation. Our politicians have allowed people to get away with eating and destroying a national asset. The brazenness of these international interest groups backed by their respective politicians in their respective countries knows no end in as far as stripping and stealing Eskom in total darkness. I will make two examples of their brazenness and how they have captured our leaders. Coal. Richards Bay Coal Terminal is exporting millions of tons of our best coal to Europe and Asia, our A-grade coal. We are left with coal that causes problems at our plants. This is tantamount to giving your neighbors your best harvest of food from your garden, whilst your children are getting rotten or old food and it makes them sick, but you continue to give your neighbors the best food. Captured politicians take such decisions. We are dealing with a national emergency and they make sure that Europe doesn't suffer the same. Their own people must sit in darkness. Madness. The international community paid South Africa $8.5 billion to stop us from exploring and mining our 400 years of coal reserves. Before I speak about the job losses, let's deal with the one question that has been eating me. I visited Europe a month or so ago. Germany is lighting up their coal-fired plants, even removing solar farms to make space for expansion of coal-fired plants. Why are we being told to stop? And they are not only continuing but multiplying their efforts and reliance on coal. What madness is this? It's politicians that are captured madness. The job losses in the coal mining industry will wreak havoc and cause damage, which will make $8.5 billion look like small change. The problems in Eskom can never be pointed at one man or one party. These interests that are eating Eskom into darkness have infiltrated all areas of decision-making locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally. They don't care about South Africans sitting in darkness. They will only stop when Eskom is dead and cannot be milked anymore, or when we stop them. I will write part 3 tomorrow to come up with possible solutions and why they would never give a guy like me the job. Salute. My proposed solutions for Eskom. None amongst us can correctly fathom what will happen if the lights go out for 7 days non-stop. The best word that comes close to this is Armageddon. Recovering from a total blackout will take years to fix. We can fix things now before we get there. Load shedding has been with us more than a decade. We truly cannot listen to the current leadership telling us that they will fix it. Nowhere have I read a clear plan as to how they will get us out of load shedding. If there's not even a plan, how can we trust them? I've put my name up as a possible CEO. The chances of that happening is basically zero because of my political affiliation. But these are my 7 steps I would suggest to fix Eskom. Number 1, a state of disaster. The first step towards solving a problem is to actually understand what the problem is. The current diagnosis is what can lead to a cure. We have been hyper-focused for too long on Eskom being the problem in South Africa when Eskom is not our problem. Our problem is we don't have enough electricity in South Africa. The failings at Eskom are seen as the primary reason for why we don't have enough electricity, when really Eskom is just a part of the problem. The idea that if we can somehow fix Eskom, then we will fix the electricity problem in South Africa is something that we unfortunately need to abandon as an old-fashioned idea whose time has come and gone. We are in desperate times. A society constrained by endless future years of lack of cheap, available electricity is a society doomed to never grow. We will go backwards. With enough power, we will be able to lift this country out of poverty. There will be industries, and with industries will come jobs. Our per capita income will increase, and we will finally start to have options again as a society. What countries in the developed world are forcing down our throats, though, is an unacceptable form of energy imperialism. They benefited from centuries of growth, industrialization, and development on the back of cheap, abundant fossil fuel energy. And now they think they can tell countries that need to catch up with them on the development trajectory that they can't benefit from the same. We must accept something that is nothing short of bullying when we are told that even though we have one of the world's largest shale gas deposits in the Karoo, that we should not think about extracting and burning that natural gas because we would be contributing to the warming of the planet. As human beings who have long had to work on how to survive on a hostile planet, remaining poor and underdeveloped has never been an answer to any of the problems we face. South Africa needs to become modern, rich, and free, and our gas and coal bounty remains part of how we will get there for ourselves. Over the past 15 years, more people globally have been taken out of absolute poverty than at any time in human history. People don't talk about this. It's a suppressed fact because certain interests need to push their agenda that poverty and inequality today are worse than ever. But they are not. The reason why they are not is because countries like China and India have used fossil fuels aggressively to boost economic growth in their countries. Richer people care more about the environment. They end up living stable lives. The sooner we can end poverty everywhere, the sooner we can reach a point where everyone is in a position to live on this planet sustainably. South Africa produces just a little more than 1% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. We are being made to feel like the polecat of the world again for burning coal. But a South Africa that can get back to producing abundant energy will be a key part of lifting all of Africa out of extreme poverty. We need to not only make ourselves independent and wealthy through energy, but share this bounty with the rest of the continent. It can be done, but it will take brave choices and real leadership, and the willingness to stare down the superiority mindset of the West, who will never allow us to have for ourselves what they have always taken for granted as their own birthright. It is time for us to declare the energy crisis a state of disaster so that all the resources of our state can be focused on solving this issue and once and for all. It's time to go to total war against load shedding and the slow throttling to death of our country. Number 2, white engineers were booted out. We should call all the mostly white engineers who were booted out of Eskom back to work. Pride, ego, and racism would not switch on the lights. The one fact that none amongst us can debate is that the whites who were given severance packages are sitting with a lot of information. They have constructed most of what is broken today. We should entice them out of retirement with good packages. Number 3, all labor and supply chain management. Each and every senior manager should reapply for his or her job. Eskom is carrying a lot of dead wood that was planted there because of political affiliation. Their only contribution is to fatten their bank accounts. We should also have a lifestyle audit on each and every person in supply chain and senior management. When many would resign before the process, but we should still continue and follow it up with criminal charges where criminality can be proven. Number 4, declaration of war. A serious task team consisting of all law enforcement, including tax authorities, should descend on Eskom to defeat the different mafia formations who are entrenched in the business of Eskom. This war should be led by the CEO, mostly to give honest Eskom workers the guts and assurances to come forward and blow the whistle on the rot that has been happening at Eskom. Eskom should not only have a hotline to report corruption, but we should have a huge financial reward system for anyone coming forward with information regarding criminal conduct, past and present at Eskom. We should use all at our disposal to clean Eskom from this deeply ingrained rot of corruption. Number 5, energy mix. We have access to the following to secure reliable energy for the people of South Africa. This is great, but the problem we are facing is the PR war amongst the below mentioned solutions. Number 1, coal. Number 2, gas. Number 3, nuclear. Number 4, renewables. Number 5, hydrogen. All above are necessary and much needed to solve our crisis. Some will bring relief sooner, some will take longer, some will be expensive, others less expensive. Superpowers in the world use all of this maximally at the appropriate times and budgetary allowance. Number 6, the Eskom board. Each and every person who will sit on the board should not only be capable, but should serve a targeted purpose in solving our energy crisis. We cannot just have people on the board that obtain degrees in their respective fields. We need the smartest people on the Eskom board. We have many smart people in South Africa and abroad. We should take smart people with a track record of building great companies and turning around struggling companies. We cannot afford to get this wrong. The board should report straight to the president of the country. Number 7, political will and brave decision making. Immediately stop selling energy to other African countries. No country in the world supply energy to other countries whilst their own citizens are sitting in darkness. Countries sell surplus energy, not only energy. Country duty comes first always. Immediately stop exporting our best coal whilst we remain with low quality coal. Supply of energy before super profits. Stop all the evergreen contracts, start from scratch and do deals that make commercial sense and not political sense. Lastly, if we leave our people in darkness, flames of anger will soon rise in South Africa. Salute. The end. Those were the 3 parts that Gayton Mckenzie posted mid-December 2022 on his Facebook. You can go and research on Gayton Mckenzie's page on Facebook and you will see these parts that I'm talking about. This was way before André sat with Annika Larsen on ETV. This was way before André released his book, which means people like Gayton Mckenzie have been aware. There are other people that have spoken on various platforms. Adil Nchabeleng, who has sat with David Mashabela and has sat with other people as well. Tsepo Khadima, who's also sat with King David Mashabela and other people as well to explain what's happening at Eskom. There are various engineers that have come on platforms to speak. MacG as well on Podcast and Chill sat with 2 or 3 engineers and other professionals in the energy space to explain exactly what's happening in this country. The bottom line for people like myself, and I've said this before, I was at a book launch or the release of the book of Justice Malala, A Plot to Save South Africa, who was sitting with Garrett Cliff at Cliff Central. And one of the questions I asked, and it was a rhetorical question for me, was, do you believe that the ANC is a terrorist organization? If you look at the destruction of Eskom, the destruction of Transnet, the destruction of SAA, the destruction of the post office, the destruction of Denel, and many other state-owned enterprises, and you look at how they've throttled the economy of the country by ensuring that the road infrastructure is being destroyed, by ensuring that there are always trucks on the road that are causing accidents and deaths. Our railway system is destroyed. We are not even beginning to think of building our own airplanes and ships. You realize that it seems like these people are destroying the country. Are they destroying it because they are incompetent and stupid and short-sighted and just greedy? Are they destroying this country because they have an agenda? The agenda may be to remove white monopoly capital and move towards a communist country. The agenda may be from white monopoly capital or minority capital, as it were, to be like, if we destroy state-owned enterprises, we will be forced to then go on and sell our state assets to the private sector, which Noam Chomsky speaks about. And I know the EFF's leader, the Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema has spoken about this, and so many other people as well. You've got a capitalist president at the helm, Cyril Ramaphosa, whose company Shanduga works in conjunction with Glencore to supply coal at a premium to Eskom, who works in conjunction with Phuthuma Ntlego's Pembani, and they work with the engine, which is our fuel. He works with Glencore and Astron Energy, which used to be Caltex, and they supply diesel via Petro SA to Eskom. And you look at his brother-in-law, Patrice Motsepe, and his other brother-in-law, Jeff Radebe, who have worked in collaboration to ensure that a lot of the independent power producer licenses have been handed over to African Rainbow Energy, which is Patrice Motsepe's company, to ensure that energy production is going to be going to the hands of the Motsepe, the Radebe, and the Ramaphosa families. Patrice Motsepe at African Rainbow Energy has got at the helm there Brian Damas, who is an ex-CEO of Eskom. You've got Thabo Mbeki, who was a capitalist economist president who was trying to sell Eskom back in the day and didn't invest in maintenance. And 16 years later, here we are with load shedding. People like Brian Molefe, who was the chairman, people like Matsela Koko, who was the CEO, they stopped load shedding for 2 years under President Jacob Zuma, and today they are facing charges of corruption, amongst other things. The Guptas came in and they supplied coal at a cheaper cost than the other guys. The other guys that Gayton speaks about, who we cannot mention. They were supplying about 5%, if not 3% of the coal, but they were called the bad guys, supplying cheaper coal. But we are exporting coal to other first world economies. And people like Joe Biden and other guys of the G7, G8 are giving people like Cyril Ramaphosa money to say, get off fossil fuel, but sell it to us. And people like André, who is positioning himself as a hero, was also saying we need to move away from coal and into green energy. How, when we have got so much coal and so much good coal? Why are we not exploring the gas in the Karoo and other places? I made a video speaking about how I believe there's a belt from Namibia going down to the Karoo and the Northern Cape, down to the Eastern Cape, up KZN, going up to Mozambique, of gas and oil, which we are not going to be exploring as South Africans because it has to go into private hands. Foreigners, of which people like Cyril Ramaphosa, Patrice Motsepe, and other business people are going to want to position themselves to eat. These people are not putting South Africa first. They are not putting South Africans first. And yet people are going to keep voting for them because they've destroyed society so badly that half of the nation is dependent, like children, on society, on government for social welfare. 30 million grant recipients out of 60 million South Africans. 30 to 40% unemployment. Over 70% unemployment in young people in particular. Our country is being destroyed in front of our eyes. And we're seemingly still sitting and discussing and debating who's the political party to vote for, ANC or the DA or the EFF or the PA or Action SA or the IFP. In reality, politicians are not solving our problems. South Africa is being attacked by terrorists known as politicians and some of their funders and some big private business people in this country and abroad. And how you fight terrorism is not by having sit-downs and discussions. It's by putting together an army. Something like Umkhonto weSizwe and saying, we will build an army to go against the government and big business because they are destroying this country for their own personal private gain. And we've got all these role players who are sitting at the top pretending to be crusaders. But to be honest, all of these people are just trying to look out for their faction of who will eat. Gayton very correctly so says, look at André 3-year term and see who was getting the most contracts and tenders. Look at past people that came before him. Matsela Koko himself, even though he stopped load shedding for 2 years with Brian Molefe, he himself gave certain tenders to his stepdaughter. And then you look at people before that. We do not have politicians that put this country first, that put South Africans first. And we are going to be needing alternative voices and alternative people to rise up, to arm themselves, to build an army. And I mean it, to build a real army that is stronger than our current SANDF, that is currently stronger than the SAPS, the South African National Defence Force, and the South African Police Service. Stronger, more cunning, more willing to say, we will fight you guys because you are intentionally destroying this country. You are destroying it for the benefit of foreigners and foreign interests because they are paying you, and you are destroying it for the benefit of private capital in this country. Companies like Pembani, companies like African Rainbow Capital, African Rainbow Energy, companies like Shanduga, companies like Remgro, because Johan Rupert himself has gotten licenses to provide independent power. Companies like Glencore, which is not even a local company, which wants to work in rebuilding Transnet. Companies like at some point Bayport, which was going to take over the Post Bank, Bayport under Transaction Capital. Companies like Bidvest, which are the biggest beneficiaries of tenders in this country. Companies like Murray and Roberts. There are so many private companies that stand to benefit when state-owned enterprises collapse because of our government that is intentionally destroying it. The SABC is bloated with too many workers who are overpaid and every year needs to be bailed out. while the private DSTV under MultiChoice keeps growing and developing and being a shining example of what private capital does. But you have to ask if these people are intentionally doing this. Our public healthcare system is garbage, but the discoveries, the momentums, the Mediclinic under Johan Rupert and Remgro and Dr. Edwin Herzog, Discovery under Adrian Gore and the like. These are the private companies that are coming through and winning. Dr. Chris van der Merwe, an amazing innovator in the education space with Curo, under PSG with Yanni Mouton, which has a part ownership by Dr. Christo Visa of Pepco and ShopRite. These companies are coming through and showing solutions in education. And people like the ex-MEC of education, Panyaza Lesufi, at some point gave money to Curo to take on certain kids who could not get public schools, while our public schools lay bare and many of the schools are empty today. Angie Motsecha at the helm of basic education, Panyaza Lesufi currently the Premier of Gauteng. Our government, our politicians are intentionally destroying this country. The apartheid government, which caused huge atrocities on oppressing and exploiting black people, killing black people, jailing them, that wanted just a fair chance to live in this country. The apartheid government built good infrastructure. They built universities. They built schools. They built a functional Eskom, Sasol, ISCO. They were capable, and some of those people might even be involved in the sabotage today because they want to prove a point and say, look, black leadership can't lead. Or some of them are working with the ANC, and maybe this was what they sat and discussed at CODESA. Cyril Ramaphosa, Rolf Meyer, maybe they were sitting saying, look, we'll give you guys a chance to cement yourselves, and then we have to destroy this thing so that it can move into private hands. And by the time we move it into private hands, we as the old Afrikaans guard, with some of the old British guard, and you guys as the new black guard, we will make sure that we have positioned ourselves in all these new companies so that we can all eat. And Cyril, Patrice, Mzikumalo, Saki Matozoma, Brian Joffe, Christo Visa, Yanni Mouton, I don't know if I mentioned Johan Rupert, the Oppenheimers and other people will stand to eat and benefit, while the rest of the country is not being put first. But we claim that this is a South Africa for us. We claim to be democratic. We claim to love our constitution, but it's not working for us, and there's no justice. The arms deal to this day, there's been no justice. Implicated people include ex-President Jacob Zuma, ex-President Thabo Mbeki, people like Fana Hlongwane are involved there. Sidney Mufamadi as well, who is currently being sent to the USA to go and apologize and say, no, we're not involved with Russia. We don't know what the deals are with Russia. President Jacob Zuma was good friends with Vladimir Putin and they wanted to do nuclear. Was it to put South Africans first? Was it to make money for themselves on their own? We do not know. But no one seems to care about putting South Africa first. It's all about making money for yourself, for your family, and for your community and your business associates. It doesn't matter who gets hurt and who gets burnt. The Eskom mafia is in Mpumalanga, where Diti Mabuza was the premier. He decided to step down as the deputy president of the ANC and the country. Maybe to go back and focus on whatever's happening there with the mines, with the power stations, etc. And there's no justice. Or Ace Magashule as well apparently were running mafias in the Free State through tenders and the like. He was removed as the Secretary General of the ANC and he's still frustrated. And we don't know if he, in his frustration, might also sabotage certain things. Supra Mahumapilo in the Northwest. What's happening in KZN where people are constantly killing each other over political seats with tenders? Or Mamzandile Gumete in Durban and the destruction that we are seeing in Durban, which is turning into a crap city today and no longer the beautiful tourist destination it used to be. And then you've got the DA blowing the horns of the Western Cape and Cape Town, while the Cape Flats are in shambles, while Inyanga remains one of the most violent townships in South Africa. Places like Kwalanga, Guguletu, Khayelitsha are falling apart under the same DA that we need to celebrate because they are rich white people in Cape Town who ensure that the city works. There are rich people in Sandton that make sure that the city works. So should we be applauding the ANC? No. Until South Africans, you and me, rise. And by rise, I mean understand the reality on the ground outside of cheap politicking. Stop picking Gayton, Mckenzie, André, Ruyter, Jacob Zuma, Thabo Mbeki. Stop picking a side and put South Africa first. Who is actually fixing the problems? Is Begitele really making sure that crime is being lowered? No. Rise up and be like, you know what? I want to be an activist. I will get louder on social media and I will speak out against the corruption and crime of our politicians and big business. Who are the biggest entrepreneurs and why would you guys not want to publish them? Why does the mainstream media not want to give us a definitive list of the biggest tenderpreneurs in government. All of them, especially the big white and Indian companies. Show us who the people are that are eating from the state and stop pretending like it's only black people that are corrupt. We need to see the biggest tenderpreneurs in state-owned enterprises. The SABC, Eskom, and other state-owned enterprises. Who are the biggest tenderpreneurs there? People did not even know that Bosasa existed until Angelo Agrizzi, people like Gavin Watson came to the fore. How many other Bosasas are there in this country? Who is actually making money in this country? And what is the role of Shanduga, of Cyril Ramaphosa? He claimed he was going to put it in a blind trust before he was brought on as deputy president. He has never done it to this day. He is still pushing business. He's still auctioning Ankole cattle at a premium, which looks like money laundering, with his brother Patrice Motsepe. He was found with money at Phala, millions of dollars allegedly. To this day, no justice. His bank statements have been sealed by the courts. The same courts that want to expose the finances of certain people they don't like, they are happy to seal the bank account of Cyril Ramaphosa so that we do not know who funded him. And then you see or you hear rumors of Stephen Saad and the guys at Aspen who have become the biggest beneficiaries of ARVs, antiretrovirals, the biggest beneficiaries of COVID vaccines. Those same people, for some reason, we don't know about them. And we have to keep quiet and laugh and pretend like everything is okay when it's not. Our railway system has been destroyed. State-owned airline carrier was sold for 51 Rand by Pravin Gordhan. Gwede Mantashe is involved somehow in the coal mining. He's involved with the trucking guys. People like Osaki Matozoma benefit from the trucking. Tito Mboweni, who claimed to be a hero and a champion, was sitting on the board, I think, of Nampec when André was CEO. He was the one that referred Tito Mboweni, who today goes on Twitter and cooks chicken and promotes Lucky Star and makes it all a fat joke. He was the one that referred André, and it was 4 ANC leaders who put him in power. Umama Otogo Didiza, Ibrahim Patel, Gwede Mantashe, and Pravin Gordhan. Mamtogo Didiza is at agriculture. Ibrahim Patel, I think, is at the economic, I think it's trade and industry or economic affairs and government. Gwede Mantashe is mineral resources and energy. And Pravin Gordhan is public-owned entities. These are the 4 people that place André. And today, those are the same people saying André is being destructive and is committing treason. Those people put him there. André didn't appoint himself. But they do not want to take accountability. And next year, they're going to be wanting people to vote for the ANC, a terrorist organization. The apartheid government was correct in saying the ANC was a terrorist organization because they were bombing buildings, they were looking to overthrow governments, etc. Legally, they were. They were fighting for the liberation of black people, and they needed to break the law in order to do that. It was the right thing to do. Nelson Mandela was one of the most wanted people, even by the CIA. After they liberated us and we could vote and we had this country that we have now, we celebrated them. But today it looks like they've gone back to their terrorism ways. And now it's to destroy the country for everyone. And I think it's going to take some of us to do what the ANC, I think it was Nelson Mandela, if not Oliver Reginald Tambo, was saying, you must do to the ANC government what the apartheid government did to us if they ever get to that level. And I think we're getting very close to a point where we will need to break the law to be able to stop the carnage by the ANC, by other political evil people, and their business funders who pretend to be holy and quiet in the back, but they keep funding the campaigns. They benefit from a bulk of the tenders. Their private companies make more money when the ANC is destroying the country. PEP and Paxi is growing as a courier service, and others, Postnet, Aeromax, they are growing as the post office is being destroyed. The trucking companies, of which some of your politicians have a stake, are benefiting while the railway system of Transnet is being destroyed. While the SABC is being destroyed, DSTV and MultiChoice are making more money, and Naspers, of which some of your politicians have got a stake in these companies. Like I said, the Mediclinics, the Discoveries, the private healthcare sector is making more money while our public healthcare system is being destroyed in this country by your ANC politicians who are going to go out, wear yellow shirts and sing and dance and wear red shirts and berets and pretend to be Marxists, Leninists, communists who are living in the fanciest suburbs run by the DA and who love money. We are all being lied to, and I understand now why so many people do not want to vote because they do not believe in politicians. But what needs to happen is each and every one of us needs to get vocal. Each and every one of us needs to get armed and get weapons. And we need to begin trying to figure out who actually puts South Africa and South Africans first and who is putting their own benefit, their own personal benefit first, along with their friends overseas at the World Economic Forum, at the United Nations, the Chinese, the Americans, the British, the German, and so many other people, maybe even the Russians, who want to come and eat from South Africa, even the people from the United Arab Emirates coming to strategically position themselves in the Eastern Cape. And they just want to make money, and they forget that there are citizens here who wake up every single day and work very, very hard and pay their taxes and do their absolute best to try and make this country a springbok country that wins against other nations. We have got people here who are hell-bent on making sure that South Africa remains a third world country that is only good for raw material in agriculture, in mining and manufacturing for the first world developed nations, while we remain useless when we have the greatest minds and the greatest talents here, which remain oppressed so that we do not win. Penuel the black pen, Penuel usiba olumnyama, Penuel the swart pen. Let's get moving.